Hey guys, you're watching Btekt. I'm Basil. This is the Moto Z2 Play. Now this isn't a flagship phone, but it does support some flagship features in the form of Moto Mods. You can see here I've got a sound boost to wireless charging mod, a cosmetic mod that just looks really sweet, and a power pack. So it'll add some battery to the Moto Z2 Play. Is the Z2 Play in itself a good phone though? Would we recommend it? Is it a great in to get access to those Moto mods? That's what this video is all about. Before I jump into this phone, if you're not already subscribed to the channel, subscribe. It's how you're going to stay on top of everything that we do. Right, let's start by talking around the design of this phone. 5.5-inch display. It's nice and big, same size as an iPhone 7 Plus, but it's AMOLED technology, so the colors have more punch, more pop. Same resolution as an iPhone 7 Plus as well at full HD. You've got a front 5-megapixel camera above the screen, as well as a dual tone flash. That's a front flash. You've also got a loudspeaker that doubles up as an in-call speaker, so that's perfect. Front firing speaker, perfect for gaming. Down at the base you've got a USB Type-C and 3.5mm headphone jack, and below the screen is a fingerprint scanner. The fingerprint scanner also supports gestures within the UI as well. Down base you can see you've also got this metal body. It's a full unibody metal and it feels really solid. Around the back though, it looks like something's missing. It's got these pin connectors. It just looks a little bit like C3PO, I guess, and that's because these Moto mods just clip onto the back really nice and securely to cover up those pin connectors. Those pin connectors add all the functionality that the mods do. Right hand side's where you've got the buttons, power and volume buttons. Up at the top, nothing of note beyond the slot for the micro SD card and nano SIM slot, and on the left hand side, nothing to speak of. As for what the camera on the back is, it's a 12-megapixel snapper. It's also got a dual tone flash and it has 1.4 micron pixels, so it's going to be a lot better in low light than its predecessor, or at least that's what it should be on paper. Technically speaking, this looks and feels like a really good phone. Like I said, the back feels a little bit naked, but that's no surprise. The camera bump on the back is also going to be annoying for anyone who doesn't want to put a Moto mod on it, but for anyone who does, you won't be noticing the camera bump once the mod is on it. And indeed, that bump adds another point of kind of leverage for the mod to cling onto. So I really don't mind the camera bump too much, because me personally, I am a big fan and advocate of the mods. Right, so the design gets a thumbs up. It's got a lot of bezel, it's got a really familiar design, looks really similar to the Z2 Play. It's very thin though, it feels really premium and rich in the hand. I actually personally in a lot of ways prefer the Z Play look and feel. The Z Play also has a bigger battery as well. The Z Play is, however, a fair bit thicker. And I guess if Motorola's thinking you guys are going to be whacking mods on this, they want to make it as thin as possible. It also has the same screen size, resolution and technology as the Z Play, and that is no bad thing. Can jump into the display settings and you can see there isn't really too much that you can do with the display in terms of white balance, except for you have this color mode option. You can have standard or vibrant. The screen looks good. It's plenty sharp for me personally. Full HD does a good job. Quad HD would have been nice, but it's not going to happen in this price point, I don't think. But also what you're going to get from this screen is excellent viewing angles and really nice responsive tactility. It's a Gorilla Glass 3 panel, so it's sufficiently scratch resistant, but more importantly, it feels really rich as your thumb glides across it. The fact that you also don't have that glass panel on the back as you had on the Moto Z2 or Z Play, sorry, means you've got one less glass panel to break. As far as the user interface goes, it's stock Android, and well, it's not really stock Android. You can see it looks like stock Android, but Motorola's enhanced it with their own applications, and it really is a considered beautiful way of enhancing the user experience Android brings with it. You can see if I open Moto, I've got options to access Moto Actions, Moto Display and Moto Voice. Moto Voice doesn't really work outside the US, it only really works with US English. That said, I do have it activated, so for example, if I close my screen, I can say, show me Moto, and then it should vibrate. Let me try, show me Audible. And there you go, it's opening my Audible book. So it does still work even if you don't have a US accent, but official support is only for the US. You can jump back into the Moto app and you can see you've also got additional Moto actions, all the classic ones such as wrist flick for flashlight, right through to wrist twist for camera fire up, and it works like a dream. I actually found myself using it a fair few times just without even thinking about it subconsciously. So really glad that those additions are on board, but you've still got that pull up applications tray, 2-tier pull down notifications tray, Google menu to the left hand side, and a very smooth stock user interface that supports application shortcuts and widgets. And because it's so stock, it just feels like there is no slowdown whatsoever. When it comes to benchmarks, it really is a tale of two halves here. On the one hand, you've got day-to-day swiping, tapping, and everything like that, and it just feels and looks great. On the other, you have gaming, and when we open up Antutu, you can see the gaming benchmark, 65,931, are actually really inferior to what we'd expect of a phone of this price. For example, you can see it benchmarks below the Honor 8 even. And the Honor 9, the successor to the Honor 8, costs exactly the same as the Z2 Play. This does still play the latest games. It just is going to do so with a few frames dropped here and there, or less high graphic settings, etc. That isn't a deal breaker, especially not for me. This has 64 gigabytes of storage, and I tend to play 2D fighting games, RPGs, etc., and it plays them back just fine. It's more important for me that it has a decent amount of storage and SD expandability. But if you do just want the best graphical capabilities, you are not going to get them on here. The money hasn't gone into the GPU. Oh no, it's gone into the fit, finish, and that screen, as well as obviously that modding capabilities. The rest of multimedia, like highlights on here, are excellent. If you invest in a JBL Sound Boost 2, you've instantly got a way better speaker, complete with a kickstand right there. If indeed you don't, you've still got a front firing speaker on this thing, which sounds plenty loud. The only thing I will say is the screen could be brighter. The camera is also a real improvement over its predecessor. I can pop open my gallery and take a look at some of the pictures that I've taken on this thing. It's worth saying this is a 12 megapixel snap, 1.4 micron pixel sizes, but there is no optical image stabilization on here. So in good light, you're going to get some absolutely stunning shots. As you can see, I have no issues with it in good light, especially macro shots. They look really exceptional. That said, it has got relatively low dynamic range, so it doesn't handle extremes too well. But if you can get the shot right, it has got auto HDR on here, so you can still get some pretty beautiful shots with some brights and darks. Also worth noting, like I said, no optical image stabilization means any indoor shots. You're just going to want to hold it super still. So for example, I took this picture of this watch, and this took around 2-3 takes to take the picture that I wanted. Same can be said of this picture of this baklava or balawa, however you want to say it. So yeah, it's a really good camera, and it can also shoot 4K video as well. This is in fact a 4K video sample that I shot on it. You can see the lack of optical image stabilization does come through with the photos, but actually when it comes to the video, everything's held relatively nice and steady. The wide aperture lens means you've got a decent amount of background blur, and everything is pin sharp. One thing that is really clear when you look at a video with extreme contrasts in brights and darks is, again, that dynamic range could just be a little bit better. Still, a really decent camera for the price, but it definitely isn't a flagship camera. So what else is there to talk about? Well, only really connections and battery life, and I don't think it could get any better when it comes to connections, short of having an infrared blaster on here. It's got a USB-C, so it's future-proofed. It has a headphone jack, and it supports Moto Mods, and these are really where it's at. I've been using the Sound Boost 2, as well as the 3400 milliamp turbo power bank. This gets me an extra day easily out of this. In fact, I don't actually charge the Moto Z2 Play anymore. I actually have this by my bed, and I just charge the turbo power and leave it on throughout the day. It adds a little bit of beef to it, that's undeniable, but I don't mind that too much. I'm a big guy with big pockets. And what it gives me is the convenience of having 80% battery throughout the day. It actually gives you an option to have 80% battery throughout the day or to keep charging it up to 100. 80% is a more efficient way of doing things. Alternatively, you can have no connectivity but enhanced look and feel, or you can have wireless charging support, which is again a really sweet enhancement to be able to just thwack on. I also tried out the Gamepad. The Gamepad worked really well. I played it with Sonic, and the Hasselblad camera is sweet as well. I didn't realize that the Hasselblad could actually fire wireless flashes as well, flash guns. So it's a lot they can do there. Motorola and Lenovo really pushing the boundaries. Check out my Z Play review for some projector footage as well. I can't wait for the day when you get a mod that's going to add expanded graphical capabilities or something like that. That'll be really sweet, because then you can pick up a mid-range device like this and have it perform like a flagship. Until then, you're still better served when it comes to connectivity than any other phone around. And the battery is 3000 milliamps. And while that's a smaller battery than the Z Play was, it's still exceptional, get you through a full day. The 626 power management is really good. And of course, if you invest in the Turbo Boost mod, Turbo Power mod, you're gonna get through 2 days pretty comfortably. So this thing, take it away for a weekend and you'll come back just with about probably 10% battery or so, meaning that the Moto Z2 Play, for all intents and purposes, is an exceptional device. It offers flagship connectivity and it doesn't cost flagship buck. And while you do make some compromises when it comes to that GPU and that camera in a few respects, it still delivers performance and capabilities across the board that most people would be plenty happy with. Hopefully you enjoyed this review. If you did, click that thumbs up button, like Btekt, subscribe. It's how you're going to stay on top of everything that we do, and fire any questions that you've got around the Moto Z2 Play in the comments and I will get to answering them. And remember guys, once you're finished with your phones, don't throw them away, sell them, give them to a loved one. These phones have non-renewable elements in them, and the longer you can make it last, the better it is going to be for the planet. Thanks for watching Btekt.